Hello there and welcome to Brian Lomax's Movie Talk. Yesterday I had another double bill. I went to the cinema and I watched Jackie and Lion. First of all, Jackie, what did I think about it? I thought it was great. I thought it was a really good film that centres on a cracking performance by Natalie Portman, who might just pick up another Oscar for this. Yeah, she's incredible in this film. She has to do a very fine balancing act of portraying a woman who at times can be quite cold and calculating and very manipulative in many ways, to being someone who is very emotional and very loving and someone that we should sympathise for and do sympathise for thanks to that performance. I also think it's thanks to a really wonderful script as well and superb direction by Pablo Larrain. The film obviously centres on Jackie Kennedy, just after the shooting of her husband, and that shooting we don't actually get to see towards the end of the film, but once we do, it kind of really it gets us to a point of even greater sympathy for her, because she goes through something that very few people go through. In fact, only soldiers tend to go through. You hear about soldiers who talk about during wartime situations when they've literally held their dying friends in their arms, or their dead friend's head in their arms, with a bullet through it. And she did that, not forgetting that this is a true story after all. What she went through, and to pick herself back up and steer the country into basically celebrating her husband in the way that they do, it does leave you asking the question, would JFK be as well remembered if it hadn't have been for her, if she hadn't have pushed that legacy, so to speak, in the way that she did? I think some people can view her actions in a negative light, and I certainly think that this film goes some way to portraying how that might be, showing that, she did manipulate this kind of big media storm surrounding her husband with regards to the funeral, giving him a funeral that was fit for Lincoln, but also, it also shows her love for her husband and wanting to make sure that he was remembered, as much as herself as well. There's a bit of that in there as well. Did she genuinely do it for her husband, or was it just as much for her? Now, there is a point in the film when she does call that out, but I think she's wrestling with a lot of emotions there, a lot of different things that she's going through. But I think this is an incredible film that really digs deep with this character. And I think it'll be very rewarding on multiple viewings to see different things come out. A very complicated woman and a very complicated film that doesn't try to give you too many easy answers. Like I say, it leaves you with a rounded picture of this person, so you don't feel too heavily one way or the other. You recognise that actually this is a human being who's very complicated, very complex, who was one thing at one time and another at others, which I think we all are. We, depending on who we are with or what situation we're in, we can be different. We can be one thing and we can be another thing. It doesn't make us that one thing or that one thing. And I think that is the best thing that the film does, is present that case, but just using Jackie Kennedy as the study, so to speak. So yeah, really great film. I give it a 4 out of 5. Next up is Lion, and I was, blown away by this film. I gotta say, this film has instantly gone into my top 5 of 2016, if you're going off US release dates. Obviously it's just come out over here, but if you're talking Oscar contenders, this is one of the strongest, I gotta say. And we've got a lot of strong Oscar contenders this year. But yeah, fantastic script, adapted from a novel. It tells the story of Sharu, a young Indian boy who basically accidentally falls asleep on this train. It looks kind of abandoned, to be honest. There's no one on it. And then he wakes up to find that the train has set off and he's trapped in it for 2 days. And by the time he gets to wherever it is they've gone to, the train has gone 1,600 miles and he can't get back home because, quite frankly, he's a 5-year-old boy. He doesn't know how to, and he mispronounces the name of his hometown. So yeah, he's kind of stuck. He gets adopted by an Australian family, and then the film is really all about him dealing with that, wrestling with, you know, the difference between the culture he came from and the culture he is now in. It's just an absolutely incredible story, and the fact that it's a true story as well just makes it all the more incredible. It's beautifully handled by the director, I must say, absolutely brilliant. One thing that I did kind of think when I was watching this is, I've just seen Manchester by the Sea, and that again was an incredible film. And this film kind of has the weight of that film. It has the seriousness of that film. But there's not a single swear word throughout. And, you know, there's no sex, there's no violence or anything like this. This film's a PG over here. Now, there is, like I say, there's still things in it that I think may disturb some people from an emotional standpoint. But it just reminds me, you know, I came out of this reminded that actually, you know what, you can do a film like this and make it a PG. You can make a film like this without having to drop F-bombs every other word. And that was one of my problems with Manchester by the Sea. Again, incredible film, one of my favourites of the year, one of my top 10 films of the year. But I did come out of that film feeling a bit numb from all the constant F-bombing that was going on throughout it. I didn't feel that it was necessary. And I think some people would argue that actually it shows the realism of the situation. I don't think it does. I think this film, Lion, as I say, is absolutely incredible. I was on the verge of tears throughout. I did cry at one point. I was sat at the back of the cinema and I allowed myself to just let go, because by the time I got to the point where I cried, I'd already wanted to a good 5 or 6 times. It's incredibly emotional, and not just from the main character's perspective. You know, Dev Patel, by the way, completely deserving of a nomination. Now, whether that's going to be supporting actor or actor, I don't know. I think he could go either way. I think you could argue the case for both. I think the safest option would be to put him in for Best Supporting Actor. I think he's got more chance of winning that way. But either way, absolutely incredible performance. But someone else who totally delivers in this film is Nicole Kidman. She's astounding in this. Really kind of subtle, not over the top. You know, there are many points in this film where she could really go wild, you know, in her performance, like big. But she doesn't. She goes big, but in a kind of internal way. You know, there's very little movement, but a lot of emotion coming out of her and a lot of compassion. You know, she's playing this true life woman, and I think many people could look at this character and think, you've got no right, you know, taking these people, these kids from India. And, you know, people do that. They say, why do you adopt from India? Why don't you adopt from your own country? It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, she's a compassionate woman who has chosen to bring up 2 kids that already exist in the world rather than having her own. And it's just, I think Nicole Kidman gets to the heart of that. She really portrays the compassion of this woman in a very believable way, you know, without making her a saint. She doesn't come across as a saint, but she comes across as a very believable, very real, but compassionate woman. So as I say, 2 excellent films. I'm going to give Lion a 5 out of 5. I honestly could not find anything wrong with it. It's probably not going to be a film I'd watch again and again and again, but I definitely will watch it again at some point. You know, there are films like that, you know. But if I think about criticisms, I have none. I simply can't think of any. It's as close to perfect as a film can be. So 5 out of 5 from me. Like I say, Jackie, also a very good film. A really good double bill all round. But what about you? Have you seen either of these films? And if so, what did you think about them? Comment below, let me know. And until next time, thanks for watching.